What's there to investigate? We see it.
We see
We
it.
saw
But
it. Did you watch television? Did you see what happened at Columbia?
absolutely.
Yeah. I mean, it was clear to me that the administration at Columbia and most members of the faculty believe passionately in diversity, equity, inclusion, and the right to hurt Jews. That's what I saw. Isn't that what you saw?
I saw
Isn't that what you saw?
protesters against the war in Gaza and them using some anti-Semitic slogans and thoughts. I would say, however, that it's hard. I would say, however, society perspective, how do we do this as a society to actually eradicate anti-Semitism? And I think that is the larger question, rather than isolated on the FBI.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you,
Senator Kennedy.
Thank you all for being here. Ms. Solomon, I want to be sure I understand your testimony. Did I understand you to testify that anti-Semitism is worse under the Trump administration?
Senator, thank you for your question.
You don't have to thank me. Okay. Your best thanks is to answer.
Okay, well, I'll tell you that anti-Semitism has been rising, especially since the 2017
But has the Trump
Charlottesville attack.
administration caused that? Is that your testimony?
I wouldn't say the Trump administration has caused anti-Semitism. Has there been an increase since Trump has entered office? Yes.
Do you see a causal connection there?
Yes.
Why?
Trump has highlighted and platformed neo-Nazis and white supremacists.
Okay. I can't see that far.
Racklin.
Mr. Racklin, I understood you to say that in answer to Senator Durbin's question, the spending reductions, reducing the federal budget would increase anti-Semitism. Isn't that what you said?
No, I did not. I said that the constant threats to cut money to the Office for Civil Rights and the Department of Education prevents the federal government from adequately investigating anti-Semitism and other hate crimes on college campuses.
So you think one way to stop anti-Semitism is to give people more money? Is that
I
right?
think one of the ways is to actually fund people that are actually designed to investigate anti-Semitism on college campuses.
What's there to investigate? We see it.
We see
We
it.
saw
But
it. Did you watch television? Did you see what happened at Columbia?
absolutely.
Yeah. I mean, it was clear to me that the administration at Columbia and most members of the faculty believe passionately in diversity, equity, inclusion, and the right to hurt Jews. That's what I saw. Isn't that what you saw?
I saw
Isn't that what you saw?
protesters against the war in Gaza and them using some anti-Semitic slogans and thoughts. I would say, however, that it's hard. I would say,
isn't that
however,
what you're telling me?
that it's
That's not what you
difficult
saw.
for
You're
the
no,
federal
don't get
government
off
to
the
invest-
subject
No, I'm
on me
not.
now.
I'm
You're telling me
telling
that's
you
not what you saw.
I'm telling you that it is difficult for the federal government to adequately address the issue of anti-Semitism.
Are you telling me
without appropriate
the
resources.
Columbia administration and the faculty was supportive of the Jewish community?
I think that they are
You
trying
need
to
to
find
stop dipping into your ketamine stash.
into what? Excuse me?
Now, if we're going to solve this problem, we need to talk about it.
I'm
And
happy
it
to
wasn't
talk
just
about
at Columbia. It was at Berkeley. It was at UCLA. It was at Barnard. And Columbia has a history of discriminating against Jewish people. They used to refuse to let Jewish students come to their university. Now, you can try to bubble wrap this, but that's what I saw. If you want to stop a lot of the anti-Semitism, maybe we need to stop teaching kids to be anti-Semitic.
Sir, I would relish that opportunity.
Let me ask you a question, Ms. Kohab. Did I say that right?
Kohav.
Do you think it's possible to feel compassion for the Palestinian people without hating Jews?
Absolutely.
Would you elaborate on that? Because it looks to me like many of our Ivy League universities, it's not they weren't the only ones. Some universities handled it well. Vanderbilt, University of Chicago, Tulane. But it looks like the administration was teaching kids you got to pick a side. Mm-hmm. You either have to hate Jews or you have to be for Hamas. You can't be. There's no middle ground. Tell me what you saw. You've written a book about it. Maybe Mr. Rockland ought to read it.
Just because we are testifying, I wrote a chapter in the anthology Young Zionist Voices about what's happening on college campuses, and my book is coming soon, so look out for that.
Good plug, but
So let me answer your question.
Can you feel compassion for the Palestinian people and not hate Jews?
Absolutely. I think that what I've seen on college campuses is a pushing of a Marxist framing of the way that you see the world. And this is not only in liberal studies departments. I've taken dance classes, I've taken creative writing classes, where your final project is literally called the Political is personal. And what they're teaching you on college campuses is that the political is personal and that everything should be personalized. And there's a global north, a global south, a global right, and a global wrong. And the issue with college campuses and what's happening right now in the United States is that we're allowing ideology to drive violence. A society that says that you can commit violent acts based on your ideology because your ideology is correct is a society that's eroding. And that's what I see on college campuses. Now, you asked if I could feel Palestinian peoplehood, right? If I could feel compassion for the Palestinian people. Absolutely. And every night when I go to bed, yes, I pray for the Jewish people, but I also pray for the Palestinian people, for God to send them leaders that actually care more about their safety. Leaders that put their people's safety in order to propel an ideology at risk aren't leaders. If you look at Hamas, they tout what happened after October 7th up until this day as a victory. How can you lie in rubble after thousands of your people have died and call that a victory? So what I see that has to happen on college campuses is de-radicalization. Until you admit that there's a radical ideology happening on a college campus, you cannot fight it. You cannot fight it.
Senator Ronald, hey, I know there's a lot of strong feelings in here. We all have them. But each member only has 5 minutes, and it just takes time away from their 5 minutes if you really want to get all these facts out. Ms. Hirano.
It began like so many hearings do, measured, procedural, almost weary. Questions about funding, about programs, about which agencies were responsible for combating hate. But then Senator John Kennedy of Louisiana took his turn, and the tone in the room changed. He didn't ease into it. He went straight for the question that millions of Americans have been asking since the chaos began spilling from college quads onto nightly news broadcasts. What happened to our universities? Facing the witnesses, Kennedy's drawl was steady but razor sharp. "Did I understand your testimony?" he asked, "that anti-Semitism is worse under the Trump administration?" The witness, Ms. Solomon, hesitated. "Anti-Semitism has been rising," she began carefully, "especially since 2017. Kennedy cut in, not with anger, but with surgical precision. "Has the Trump administration caused that? Is that your testimony?" When she finally suggested that President Trump had highlighted and platformed white supremacists, the senator's eyebrows barely moved, but the shift in the air was unmistakable. This was not going to be another polite exchange of political platitudes. Kennedy was done with euphemisms. One by one, he turned to the other witnesses. When one implied that budget cuts made it harder to fight anti-Semitism, Kennedy pounced. "So you think one way to stop anti-Semitism is to give people more money?" His words weren't sarcastic. They were incredulous. The sound of a man who'd seen too much bureaucracy pretending to solve moral crises with spreadsheets. Then came the question that made the room hold its breath. "What's there to investigate?" he asked. "We see it. Did you watch television? Did you see what happened at Columbia?" He wasn't reading notes now. He was speaking from memory, raw, unscripted, unfiltered. He described what the world had seen on the news. Encampments of students screaming anti-Semitic slogans, faculty turning away as Jewish students fled their own campuses in fear. "It was clear to me," Kennedy said, "that the administration at Columbia and most members of the faculty believed passionately in diversity, equity, and inclusion, and the right to hurt Jews." The room fell silent. When the witness tried to soften the picture, Kennedy didn't let him. "Don't get off the subject," he said, voice low, unyielding. "You're telling me that's not what you saw?" And when the answer came, a muddled, bureaucratic defense of complex issues and context, Kennedy struck back, his southern wit turning to acid. "You need to stop dipping into your ketamine stash." It was brutal, unvarnished. The kind of remark that belongs more to barroom truth than Senate decorum. But the audience, both in the chamber and beyond, erupted, applause breaking through the tension like a crack of thunder. Because beneath the insult was something deeper. The exhaustion of a nation tired of watching intellectual elites excuse what ordinary citizens know to be wrong. Then Kennedy turned to another witness, a young woman named Jo Kova, a Jewish author and advocate who had written about anti-Semitism on campus. His tone softened. "Do you think it's possible," he asked, "to feel compassion for the Palestinian people without hating Jews?" Her answer, clear and trembling with conviction, was everything that had been missing from the earlier testimony. "Absolutely," she said. "Every night I pray for the Jewish people, but I also pray for the Palestinian people, for God to send them leaders who care more about their safety than about ideology." She spoke of classrooms where ideology had replaced inquiry, where students were taught to divide the world into victims and villains, global north versus global south, oppressor versus oppressed. They're teaching kids, she said, that the political is personal and that violence is justified if your ideology is righteous. It was a chilling description of a moral collapse, a generation taught to believe that hatred can be holy if it's packaged as justice. Kennedy listened, silent now. Around the room, even the senator's fiercest critics leaned forward. For a fleeting moment, politics disappeared, and something older, truer, took its place, a shared recognition of moral clarity. This was not a debate about left or right. It was a reckoning with the consequences of moral relativism, a worldview that blurs the line between protest and persecution, between compassion and cruelty. In the span of a few minutes, the hearing had become a microcosm of America's larger struggle, a country trying to remember the difference between free speech and moral cowardice. Kennedy's anger, raw, unpolished, deeply human, reflected not hatred, but heartbreak, a disbelief that in 2025, Jewish students could be chased off campus while administrators issued statements about dialogue and context. His questions weren't elegant, they weren't diplomatic, but they were necessary. Because what he demanded wasn't an academic theory, it was accountability. And when the applause broke out, it wasn't for a politician, it was for a principle. It was for the idea that decency must never require a trigger warning. That hatred, no matter who speaks it or how eloquently it's disguised, must still be called by its name. In that hearing room, amid the noise of partisanship and political theater, a rare thing happened. The truth spoke louder than the spin. Because you can debate policy, you can parse language, but you cannot pretend not to see what everyone else can see. Students marching with swastikas on Ivy League lawns, professors justifying terror in the name of liberation, administrations too afraid to condemn the unconscionable. And so, when Kennedy asked whether it's possible to care for Palestinians without hating Jews, the answer was not only yes, it was urgent. Because that distinction is all that stands between compassion and chaos. The applause that followed wasn't just reaction, it was release. A sign that despite the noise, decency still resonates. That the American conscience, bruised though it may be, still stirs when someone dares to speak the truth plainly. In that moment, beneath the marble ceilings of the Senate, the noise of the world seemed to still, if only for a heartbeat, as one man's blunt honesty collided with the nation's buried outrage. This is Congress Chronicle. Truth spoken plainly, courage rewarded. If you believe facts still matter, and that silence is never an option, subscribe now and stay with us.